Heavy metal fans headbang for many reasons. In a live concert setting, headbanging signals approval of the music, builds community, and releases energy. Heavy metal performers headbang to demonstrate authenticity and their allegiance to heavy metal culture, to show their enthusiasm about the concert, and to rouse the crowd. But it may be that for fans and performers, headbanging has a musical purpose, a metrical purpose. Some scholars argue that headbanging is a way of using the body to create a metrical interpretation of the music. This accords with current theories of meter itself, that we perceive and anticipate beats in real time while listening to music. Headbangers typically move their bodies in the same way at the same time. This reflects principles of entrainment, in which we sync up with periodic repeating events around us. Meter is a music-specific type of entrainment. Merely seeing someone doing something periodic can impel us to entrain to the same stimulus in a similar way. Our impulse to entrain to musical meter and to other people's periodic movements is so strong that one rarely sees headbangers moving their bodies in different ways at the same time. So how might we make sense of this performance by Meshuggah, in which the vocalist and the guitarists and bassist are headbanging in different ways? Let's look at the video a little more closely. To set the tempo, the drummer counts off 4 quarter notes on the hi-hat. Once the song begins, the guitarists and bassist headbang to the half-note pulse. The vocalist headbangs to the first note of each riff statement every 7/8 notes, extended to 8 the final time. The simultaneous distinct headbanging patterns reflect distinct metric interpretations. Here's a transcription of what we just heard. Blue circles follow the guitarists' and bassists' headbanging pattern on beats 1 and 3 of each measure. Red circles follow the vocalist's headbanging pattern, appearing on the first attack of the repeating riff. Let's look at this another way. The innermost circle represents the 8 measures. The next circle represents the half notes that the guitarists and bassist headbang to. The next circle represents the quarter note pulse established by the count-off. Finally, the outermost circle indicates the vocalist's headbanging pattern, measured in 1/8 notes. The simultaneous distinct headbanging patterns are more than just visually arresting. The band members here choreograph a struggle between freedom and control, a struggle that is an important aspect of the heavy metal aesthetic. The vocalist's headbanging, along with the riff, represents freedom, while the guitarists' and bassists' headbanging conforms to the metrical structure and represents control. The lyrics reflect this struggle as well. In the first verse, the subject is trapped in a ceaseless fever of spite and caught in a moment of unforgiveness. The final statement of the riff is stretched from 7 to 8/8 notes in order to realign with the downbeat in the following measure. Olivia Lucas describes this as a resolution from struggle into structure. Let's consider another example from Meshuggah, which choreographs a different aspect of the heavy metal aesthetic. As in the first clip, the drummer sets the tempo with quarter notes on the hi-hat. The guitarists and bassist again headbang to the half-note pulse. But when the vocalist joins in, he headbangs in a stylized way to the individual notes of the repeating riff. Let's take a closer look. As before, circles show the guitarists and bassists' headbanging pattern. Arrows indicate the vocalist's downward and upward headbanging motions. But how does the vocalist's headbanging relate to the riff? Let's zoom in and look at not only when he headbangs, but also whether his motions are upward or downward. Most of the time, the direction of his headbanging follows the contour of the riff. Asterisks indicate exceptions. The vocalist's headbanging pattern represents the element of power central to the heavy metal aesthetic. The high volume level of the live concert setting makes this power very real. Metalheads often use words such as punishing, brutal, pounding, and pummeling to describe riffs. Each note of the riff lands like a blow to the vocalist's head, eventually rendering him disoriented. Anticipating the arrival of the verse, he throws his head back and raises his arms. He coordinates an extravagant downward motion with the downbeat of the verse, then takes up the half-note headbanging pattern used earlier by the guitarists and bassist. In the Meshuggah videos, the musicians chose different speeds to entrain to, resulting in very different headbanging patterns. But compare this performance by Animals as Leaders. Here, the guitarists headbang to the same speed, the quarter note, but their headbanging is offset by an eighth note. As a result, when one guitarist's head is down, the other's is up. The drummer plays a steady stream of eighth notes on the China cymbal. Each guitarist headbangs to half of those notes, the quarter note pulse. Red circles indicate the on-beat headbanging of the guitarist on the right side of the screen. Blue circles indicate the off-beat headbanging of the guitarist on the left. The steady eighth notes in the China cymbal provide a regular framework for headbanging, but as an undifferentiated stream, they don't suggest reasons why one might entrain to the onbeats versus the offbeats. Rather, the riff is where we find these opportunities for entrainment. Let's take a closer look. The accents indicate spots where the riff notes align with the China cymbal. We can see that about half of these attacks fall on onbeats, and half fall on offbeats. But there are moments in the riff that might encourage the guitarist on the right to headbang to the onbeats, like here, where we have 6 onbeat attacks in a row. And there are other moments that might encourage the guitarist on the left to headbang to the offbeats. The riff begins with 4 offbeat attacks in a row, followed by 9 more. In the performances we just watched, musicians headbang to create meter, to enact the values of heavy metal culture and in response to the ebb and flow of rhythmic pulses. Fans headbang for many of the same reasons. How would you headbang to this clip?